Hey, everybody, this is Perch. You've heard me talk about Greenfield or this idea of evergreen, the concept that comics should have content that if you pick them up 20 years later, as much as possible, they don't age like milk. And one of the easy ways that this happens is they get current topic political. Like if a comic is talking about, Coney 2002, what is 2012? When was that? Coney? Anybody remember Coney? Kony? Anyway, if you make a big deal of that in comics, then it's going to look really weird in a couple of years. People either not going to understand they're not going to understand it, or it's just going to you're going to roll your eyes because things have moved on. So I think comics are best when they can at least try to, stick to concepts that are, forever. Stick to concepts, when you're going to handle a particular topic, you want to handle racial inequality, you can handle that as a theme and the topic. But if you want to have, a bunch of people with Trayvon Martin t-shirts, if you remember that reference, that's the stuff that ages it. And I think there's a time and a place for tributes. I mean, regardless of how you feel about any of these topics, there's nothing wrong with a tribute to somebody, particularly somebody who's passed. But is, the Avengers the place for that tribute? Is that really the best possible place to make that point? And if you're trying to create a story, both for commercial success and just overall, net do good in the world, if that's what you're after, then you kind of need to stick the landing with some of this stuff. So anyway, I think I've been thinking about this, a decent amount as comics increasingly have gone the other direction. They're far more current time topical. And then I saw some comments. There's a thread going on between a couple writers where they were, taking the opposite side of what I'm saying right now and saying that, if comics want to, appeal to a new audience, millennials and Gen Z, well, they need current day topics. They're consumers of current day topics. And so if you want sales to grow, you actually have to lean the other direction and make it very, very relevant to the in the moment kind of thing. And the argument in the thread was, comics are already playing at a disadvantage because we have to make them months in advance. And so it's incumbent on us to try and make, comics as topical to the moment as possible. And people need to give us a break because that's really hard when there's this delay. So many things wrong in that sentence. By the way, whenever somebody says it's incumbent of us, that person is a douchebag. Generally, I just saying that's a sign you're dealing with douchery. But so it's all in kind of what you're trying to prove and what you're trying to go after. But I find that increasingly comics are leaning into this idea of we have to make it topical for right now. And while there's a lot of high and noble reasons that are given, it feels like a lot of it comes down to, I want to comment on what I'm seeing on Twitter or Facebook or TikTok, and that's where I want to do my comic book research, and trying to abstract that into a higher level concept is too much work for me. Unfortunately, it absolutely screams laziness. Full stop laziness. It does not look and come across like a carefully executed strategy. When you're using an Eminem reference that's roughly 15 years out of date in your Fire and Ice book, you cannot tell me this is all part of a very clever, thoughtful approach to appeal to the newbies. That's not true. And by the way, waving everything off on Gen Z and millennials as, the reason why we're doing this super shitty thing is because of that generation. That generation is not as cookie cutter as everybody would like to believe. And it's not like, we're doing this dumb thing and I agree it's dumb, but that's the only thing Gen Z will take. You hear this stuff come out like, well, Gen Z will only read comics on a mobile phone because that's the only thing that's just how they are. They won't let the phone leave their hand. That's bullshit, and we all know it. So just stop using that stuff to, encourage your nonsense. But the other side to this coin, and I commented on this in another video already, but this I was thinking about this Mystique Destiny wedding that's in Pride, and the Pride Anthology, the new book that's coming out for Marvel. And I again, the thing, it irritates me, and it irritates me for the reason I said in the other video, which is has nothing to do with the wedding or the relationship or being lesbians or celebrating the love or any of that. It very specifically has to do, and this is just a cover, so hopefully the story isn't this way, but it very specifically has to do with the fact that these two, Destiny and Mystique, are current criminals, not heroes, current criminals. They send Mystique on Black Ops missions to kill people. She has killed adults. She has killed children. She has poisoned and murdered lots of people. She has stolen stuff. She is a criminal. Not the be gay, do crime, kind of thing, but literally like body count. And then you're going to do a wedding where the Avengers are like standing around throwing rice like, yay, love wins. No, they'd be hauling her ass into jail is what they'd be doing. Has nothing to do with her sexuality. It has to do with the fact that she is a mass murderer. And it just bugs me that it's a suspension of disbelief that, the heroes would be like, well, I mean, look, put it this way. How irresponsible is it? Captain America, again, this is the cover image, so perhaps the inside story is different. And you could do an interesting inside story, by the way. A fun one would be that, they're on a heist or they're on the run or they're notorious. So, they disguise themselves to get married. Maybe they go to a Vegas chapel. Maybe they crash somebody else's wedding. You could do an entire thing and be on brand for that character where you have a very lavish kind of billionaire's wedding and Mystique and Destiny, crash it, disguise themselves as the bride and groom or bride and bride or whatever happens to be, holds it hostage and makes the priest marry them. Or like you could go down the list. There's a bunch of shenanigans that could be done to make it a fun and entertaining issue that fits with the characters. But anyway, can you imagine like Captain America and the Avengers are standing around and Captain Marvel's like, I don't know, didn't she murder a bunch of people like last week? Captain America's like, yes, but we'll give her a break today. Today is about their love, and so we'll give them a pass for today. And Marvel's done stuff like this where they're wanting to signal the message somewhere else, and so they'll have a Captain America or they'll have one of the characters be like, well, we'll give them a pass for today. And it's like, no, congratulations, you're an accomplice to murder. Because when she leaves this wedding and goes and kills a bunch of people, crashes a plane, etc., you gave her a pass because you wanted love to win, and you are now directly responsible because you had her. Anyway, imagine this working in real life. You have like a mass murder rapist, and they're in jail. It's like, oh, but this guy has always wanted to go and watch a sunset in a park full of children, so. That's his dream. We should let him have that dream. I mean, we'll put him back in jail tomorrow, but just for one day, let's let him just run free in the city and have that dream. Like, what? But where I'm linking this to the timeliness or the evergreen concept is this, and it's kind of a simple question. Back in the 90s, you had North Star come out as gay, and it wasn't. There's a video somewhere on this channel where I reviewed that issue, and it wasn't the most elegant issue. Basically, North Star is in a big fight, and at one point screams, "I'm gay," and that's how he comes out. So it's not a shining moment of sensitivity to the subject, but it was brave. I mean, I'll give it that. It was brave. In the 90s, people who were gay were still trying to figure out how they fit in, and gay marriage was definitely an open topic. It was not settled. You had the president of the United States, Bill Clinton, say he doesn't believe in gay marriage. You had, it was not a settled deal. The nation was struggling with it. And so for a comic book to come out, Alpha Flight's not the top selling book, but a more mainstream comic coming out from a mainstream company and having a gay character who's one of the main characters of the cast. Yeah, sure. There's something, I'm kind of choking on the word brave because it's a comic, but yeah, why not? Brave. Over in DC, you had Vertigo. You had Rachel Pollack, the late, great Rachel Pollack, introducing a transgender character into Doom Control. And this is, again, the 90s. And that, that transgender was, very, very not common discussion in the culture. And, there again, it's something that's taking a stand on it. And, you could love it or hate it or like it or not like it or whatever it happens to be, but it was unique. It was actually topical for the time. And, it was a comic company taking a stand on something. And if I fast forward to today, what strikes me is that in 2024, we've got comics where it feels like the main publishers, both Marvel, DC, others, are kind of recognize the fact that the time to really make these stands, if they truly want to be a cultural movement icon, if they truly want to, be at the forefront of this stuff and kind of drive change and show the way, it feels like that was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago to do that. Today, doing a Pride issue where you're celebrating two criminals getting married, it's fine if they get married. In fact, you could just have them get married. You could actually have a fun, like I said, you could have a fun story doing it. But when you read some of the solicitations, it's standing up to bigots. Again, in 2024, you could go into Target and buy socks that do. I mean, by the time Target is selling socks on this point, I think, you can no longer take the mantle of kind of, bravely setting the way on this one. You're very, very late. And I think, there's so many arguments, so many things get done in comics around, we can't let the fascists win, can't let, this argument for this stuff. But it all feels years late for this debate. And you could say, well, better late than never. No, I don't think you can actually, because you can't simultaneously say, we are, protecting, pushing, helping change the culture when you let everyone else from Target to Dunkin' Donuts to General Motors to the, Texas Highway Patrol. So they've every now and then there's signs that go up saying, love is love. Cool. But when the DMV and the Highway Patrol is beating you on message, is getting that out faster, then what the hell? And so to kind of circle back, my point is still the same. It is evergreen comics are better. You shouldn't jump at every trend, but then this is all the more reason to try and nail the big social topics or cultural topics or action topic or whatever happens to be. Nail the story. Have a story that's going to be relevant, that's not going to be embarrassing 20 years from now. Strangely, I think the cringiness of North Star screaming out, "I'm gay," is still a better representation, better kind of overall story and push than you see from a lot of the current anthology titles and the stories there that, are claiming to do the same thing just 30 years later. You just start to wonder, for me, what happened between the early 90s and North Star. That was 93, I want to say. What happened between North Star coming out and today? What happened? What happened during the 2000s? I guess we were all occupied with the Iraq War. What happened? Because it feels like nothing happened. And then now it's almost like we're trying to recreate kind of a civil rights movement. I mean, I'm no joke about it. I expect for at some point Marvel to come out with a story going, Captain America's like, what shouldn't be? Segregation. We shouldn't have it. I know this is hard for all of you to hear, but we shouldn't have it. And I'm going to take a stand against it. It's like, in 2024? What? And what's painful about this as well is like I mentioned, in the 90s, comic companies were doing things. In the 1960s and 70s, comic companies were doing things to stand up against racial injustice, other things. They were there. They were doing it. They actually were, in large cases, what I hear the creators today say they want, pioneers. When you get to 2024 and you try to run that same, no pun intended, flag up the flagpole, it makes a hell of a lot less sense. I went to a, and I realize the hypocrisy of saying that Arby's is crap food with what I'm about to say, but I went to a Panda Express the other day, and Panda Express is doing something for an LGBTQ cause. And I'm looking at that going, this is more effective marketing fundraising than what Marvel and DC are doing. And if this is what you're trying to push, you should not get beat by Panda Express. I guess that's my point. Thanks for listening.